Fellow citizen of the internet, welcome to the Moses Kabandana podcast. Here, I share my story and I hold conversations that are worth having so that hopefully at the end of those conversations, you and I can learn a little something about this whole thing that we call life. This is a series that I call My Earliest Memories, where I travel back in time and try to remember a particular event that has, for some reason, stayed in my mind. I hope that the description of these events, it is as accurate as they actually happened. Now, given that I'm 29 years old now, and these stories are, old, at the very least 20 years old, take some of these stories with a grain of salt because I myself cannot trust my own memories because, who can? So, story numero uno. I am about 6, maybe 7 years old. We had already left the refugee camp. I am in a neighborhood. I don't remember exactly the name of the place, and it is dusk, not exactly dark, but not exactly bright either. And I am with some neighborhood kids, and we decide to play a game called hide and seek. And I had probably learned enough Mashangan, which is a local dialect, at this point, and I was probably fluent in Portuguese. That is important because I was already outside of the refugee camp, which means that I had been mingling around with local kids or I was already in school. So I had probably started to be a part of the local culture as far as growing up with the local kids and practicing the language. So I am outside. It's dusk. I'm playing with some kids. The counting starts. Let's say 9, 8, 7. And I do what any kid, any individual that is playing hide and seek does. I run, find a place to hide. And so running, I did. And I found a place to hide. I jumped into a giant hole. I jump into the hole and some sand is falling on my face, on my head. It was a rather deep hole for me. And in that hole, I was not alone. Granted, could have been another kid in there, but there was a figure that was sharing that space with me. Now, if you can travel back in time playing hide and seek, you don't want to find a spot that someone has already found. It's annoying. Anyways, before I could even put 1 and 2 together, this said figure picked me up, put me on their shoulder, and jumped out of the hole. And I don't really have a recollection of perfect memory as far as what exactly proceeded. All I remember is that my belly is on their shoulder, my feet are dangling in front of them, and they're holding my feet as they're running. And I am faced down so I can see their feet somewhat, I can see their back. And if I turn my head up, I can see, people chasing after us. Chasing after this figure that I happen to be captured by. And the memory kind of goes in and out. And it ends where this figure that's currently carrying me tries to climb an entire wall with me on their shoulder. And at the same time, the people are chasing still after them. And fortunately and or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, my memory cuts out from here. I don't know what was happening. I don't remember what happened to the person. That's just it. That is as far as my memory goes. Second story starts in the same province, Maputo, in an orphanage. It is called ADPP, Cidadela das Crianças, or in English, I think they go by Children's Town. It is in the province of Maputo, in the city called Costa do Sol. COSTA space DO space SOL. I have great fond memories of this orphanage. And whenever I look back in my childhood, it is often with rose-colored glasses because, well, probably have to. Now, we were in this orphanage. We were not allowed to leave as kids. I mean, I'm probably 7, 8, maybe 9 years old at this point. We were not allowed to leave after dark. I mean, we're little, so the orphanage was fenced in. Some of the older kids would be able to leave whenever they pleased, like such as my brother. He is 5 years older than I. He was able to leave or sneak out. I don't have perfect recollection of the memories. I actually visited this orphanage. What was it, 6, 7 months ago, and that in itself was a long journey, emotionally and otherwise. So, anyways, we were not allowed to leave. That's the main point. To go mingle outside without any supervision. Like any 7, 8 year old, you're rebellious. I suppose we didn't wait until the teenage stages. A friend of mine and we decided to sneak out and go to the beach and enjoy whatever 8 year olds do at the beach. We would go scavenge, eat some foods that were in the trash, do what 7 year olds do, I suppose. And we overstayed there. The beach was about, I remember, it was 5 kilometers away from the orphanage, which is about 3.1 miles, I believe. So when we were coming back, we started to come back when it was, again, kind of dusk, not exactly dark. Now, you need to understand the layout of this location now. The orphanage at the time, in early 2000s, let's say 2006, 2005, 2007, was completely surrounded by eucalyptus trees, a forest, if you would, and other trees, of course. But there was a dense forest of eucalyptus trees. And to the right, there is a road. This is to the right when we were coming back from the beach, heading towards the orphanage. The orphanage is to the left, in the midst of dense eucalyptus trees. You have a main road, and then to the right you have a giant field where I remember there's a soccer field, and occasionally, assuming that we can trust my memory, which I often don't myself, some military operations would take place there. Some soldiers would practice some helicopter jumping or something. Don't remember much. So 5 kilometers from the beach, heading towards the orphanage. By the time we get to the area where it's super dense with eucalyptus trees, the sun has completely gone down. Still kind of a little bit lit, but not exactly lit because the sun has completely disappeared at this point. And I do remember my friend and I think I was on his left, so I am closer to the eucalyptus trees. And far in the distance, a series of lights, car lights, headlights, come on and off. I believe it was from one vehicle, don't quite remember exactly. And off to the right, in the field, another car turns its headlights on and off. My friend and I continue to walk, talking about whatever 7, 8, 9 year olds talk about. And the series of lights that were in front of us on the main road go on again and off, and the lights that were in the field go on and off again. We start to kind of, what's the word in English? Desconfiar, that's in Portuguese. Just be a little bit suspicious that, well, what's going on? I don't know. Now, we continue to walk. We're really close to the door, and we start to hear some voices. Now, we were barefoot. That's just how we grew up. So we start booking it into the woods. And as we start running, it becomes clear that the amount of footsteps that are crushing the leaves below our feet are not just our own. There's more crushing that's happening. So we assume, probably logically so, that we're being chased. And we really, really, really haul ass. And I do remember barely making it through the fence. Side story, we had made a hole to escape from the orphanage to go into town. Not to escape, but you do hoodlum stuff. We were fenced in, as I mentioned. So we make our way back into that hole. I think my pants got ripped up as I was trying to make it back. And the story, the memory ends pretty much there. Now, there are some rumors that kids, would get kidnapped from Mozambique and taken into South Africa for, well, X, Y, and Z. The rumors ranged between being kidnapped to work in gold mines to being kidnapped for organs and stuff. So I don't know, and I cannot validate any of that. Or it could have been an old wives' tale, or I don't know. I just know that we were scared shitless whenever these kinds of things would happen, and it could have very well been a prank from local community. Although having a car there wasn't really a thing for the vast majority of the people. So, needless to say, I don't know if I like, but I find it fulfilling to share some of the stories because the older that I get, and the older that and the further back I go in the past to reanalyze some of the stories that have been capsuled in my mind, that have stayed in my mind for one reason or another, it kind of raises more questions as to the colored glasses that I've chosen to put on in order to look at my childhood. And a lot of memories come back as a result of going back to some of the memories. And I start to question some of the things that I did, some of the things that were done, some of the things that I witnessed. And the hope in sharing this is that, well, one, you can take that step to go back in your memory and revisit some of those stories. Because as cliche as this might be, I am who I am today because of yesterday. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode, and I will see you in the next one.